Really chaotic Memorial Day weekend here in Chicago. We wanted to talk to an expert on violence prevention to get their take on the state of violence heading into the summer.
So I reached out to Arne Duncan. He and his organization, Chicago CRED, are on the front line of fighting violence in the city. By the way, he happened to meet with the family of that 2-year-old yesterday.
Then yes, very, very tragically, we had the 2-year-old have access to a gun and just unimaginably kill himself. And the mother and the family are obviously destroyed. There are no words. I can't even begin to put in words what they're going through, because I can't even begin to imagine.
And of course, it's such a terrible tragedy for that family and that community. That 2-year-old, it turned out, would be the only gun-related death in Chicago over the weekend. And while it is horrible, it's also notable, of course, because the Memorial Day weekend historically is much more violent than that. So, Marion, you had a long conversation with Arne here. So did he talk about anything larger related to that trend?
Yeah, he did. And he was quick to point out it's hard to talk about success after a child is killed in a situation like that. But his organization and others have seen violence go down, especially in the areas where they and their partners work on community violence intervention.
First time in 20 years that we've had 4 consecutive years of violence reduction. And last year was actually the safest year in 60 years, which is my entire lifetime. So that's very, very encouraging, but clearly this is not some mission accomplished moment. Violence is up slightly this year. Shootings were obviously up 38 this Memorial Day weekend, 25 last year. That's a pretty big jump in number of shootings. And we can't afford to take a step backward. We have a collection of about 24 groups doing CVI, community violence intervention work. We have a close network, and we're all out here working together. We have over 1,000 peacekeepers who are on the blocks that historically have been the most violent. And over time, those blocks have gotten safer faster than neighborhoods.
That's good to hear about that progress. And of course, a lot of people are thinking about teen takeovers and what that could look like this summer, because we did have a couple over this weekend. And people see these videos of Chicago all over the country, and that kind of paints a picture of what Chicago is like in those moments. So what did he say about teen takeovers and the plan there?
Well, he did weigh in. He was brutally honest. He thinks that doing nothing about these teen takeovers would be like watching our kids go into their own slaughter. That's how dangerous he thinks these teen trends are.
Our collective response has been wildly inadequate to the size of the threat to our teens and to the communities. 2 options. You either flood those zones with adults, 100 pastors, 200 community members, and really spend time. And we're out there talking to teens. Or, Marion, I hate to say it, we have to shut them down. But this is an absolute tragedy waiting to happen. It was lucky it wasn't a massacre of teens last night.
When you hear him talk about it and know the extent of the experience that he has, it makes it even more chilling. So I think city leaders and leaders like him and faith leaders, how we saw in our last show at 4 o'clock, they really do all need to get in there and try to work on figuring out a way.
It doesn't seem like anything has worked so far, so they got to keep throwing new ideas at this.
Yeah.
That's just
you can't give up, though, right?
No,
you got to just keep going and keep going.
I admire that attitude. Got to do something about this.
Something.
So, yeah, thanks for bringing that conversation to us. Appreciate it, Marion.
Absolutely. Thank you.